Hello, this is David Supple. I'm here with Mr. Kevin Sullivan from Shawmut Design and Construction.
Hey Dave.
Thank you for being my guest.
You bet.
Kevin is the president of the New England office of Shawmut Design and Construction, and they are a large commercial firm, construction primarily, but until we just had dinner, I always thought they were design build from the beginning, and they are, and we'll talk about that. But Shawmut Design and Construction, you know, in our area, you guys are very well known. You guys do, you know, lots of institutional, civic, very large, multi-million dollar projects. And this is the design build show, Shawmut Design and Construction, and you guys do design build. Two of your largest projects right now.
We do quite a bit.
Are design build.
Yeah.
But could you tell the story of design and construction, Shawmut Design and Construction, and how that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first, Dave, I want to thank you for the promotion. I am the vice president within Shawmut Design and
Well, you're the
Construction,
real boss, man. I mean,
I appreciate
there is
that.
no president, though, right?
We do have a CEO. Yes.
Of all of Shawmut.
Of all of Shawmut,
But you're the boss man in New England.
I am one of the bosses within the New England business. But thank you for that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's so Shawmut was founded 36 years ago,
and you've been with them for 25 years.
And I've been with Shawmut for 25 years, and we operate as Shawmut Design and Construction. And so the story goes, so Jim and Sarah, the founder of Shawmut.
That's one person's name.
That's one person's name.
Not a husband and wife.
Jim and Sarah.
Yep.
So when Jim was incorporating the company 36 years ago, Jim lived in Dorchester, lived on Shawmut Ave in Dorchester, and he's like, I got to get a name for my company. And it became, as he was on Shawmut Ave and he was by the Shawmut Tea Station in Dorchester, he said, I'm going to name it Shawmut Construction. As it had it, Shawmut Construction was already taken. So he said, all right, let's go with Shawmut Design and Construction.
Brilliant.
So here we are, 36 years later, operating a $1.4 billion company, 9 offices across the country as Shawmut Design and Construction. So a very, very successful.
That's awesome.
First 36 years.
Do you know how many years into it you did your first design build project?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I would have to.
How about you in the 25 years you've been there?
For me, it's probably been in the last 5 years that we, and really it's our clients that started to bring this to us.
Mm-hmm.
They started to give us the opportunity to think differently about how they can procure work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways you can show up. You can show up as a lump sum contract.
Yeah.
Which we've done a fair amount of that. You can
Yeah.
show up as a CM at risk, so a GMP contract.
Yeah. And just to translate, because Kevin had to describe these a little bit further to me. A GMP is like a fixed cost contract. The design is completed, and then the general contractor is brought in, and all the planning is done, the specs are done, so you have a fixed cost. That's a lump sum versus a GMP, guaranteed maximum price.
Yes.
Where it's, so go on.
So on the guaranteed maximum price, we have the opportunity early in the, let's call it the pre-construction process, to engage with the client, engage with the architect, and really start to bring some value in the pre-construction process.
Mm-hmm.
So as the design is being developed, we're developing the budget along with the development set of drawings. We're developing the schedule approach. We're developing the logistics. So it starts to build that level of collaboration. We're filling in the gaps on the drawings that are not yet 100%.
Mm-hmm. And that's not even on a design build project, right? That's
CM at risk.
That's a CM at risk GMP,
yes.
Where you're brought on earlier. Like what phase typically? What design phase?
It could be as early as conceptual.
Cool.
Dave, it could be it's conceptual, schematic. It's typically early in the process before a set of drawings, we'll say, gets the DD.
Yeah.
Because the client does value the level of expertise and collaboration that the contractor can have early in the process. So it helps to influence. It helps to mitigate risk, and it could you could bring it. There could be, if you're doing a renovation It could have an opportunity to do exploratory work.
Yeah.
So there's that
you
level of teamwork and partnership that really shows up.
Collaboration is the word you use.
Huge.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about how, I'm writing a book right now on design build and how the role of the architect traditionally was all encompassing, right? That was the person that, designed the project, was responsible for the cost, executed the project, and now that hat has been split up to different parties.
Right.
And what you're describing, Shawmut's role is taking a large part, even when it's not design build, right? Even when you're brought on in the conceptual stages of design, it's like a design build. It is a little bit design build there, right? Because your expertise is being utilized in the design process to, make sure that design is going to be able to be executed, that the cost is going to be, you're not going to have to, the client's not going to design a whole project, find out what it costs, and then have to come back and redesign things.
100%.
And so what's the difference between that versus, your two largest projects right now are design build? What is the difference between where it's not design build, but you're still brought on earlier? Are they pretty similar? Is there what's the difference?
There's definitely some common threads between a CM at risk and true design build.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that cuts through both is collaboration, teamwork, collaboration. I think what really starts to show up different in a design build procurement contract is, so as a contractor, typically we would hire the engineer and the architect. They'd work for us. So right out of the gate, Dave, where it's design build, the owner hires the contractor, Shawmut in this case,
right,
and we hire the architect and the engineer. There's an immediate teaming going on. So there's a contractual relationship that bonds you, and then there's just that you're part of my team. Dave Supple design, you're part of the Shawmut team.
Yeah.
And so there's that level of just that contractual relationship, that bond you have. In a CM at risk, it's the contractor Shawmut works for the owner.
Yeah.
And the architect works for the owner.
Yeah.
So there's collaboration, but there's a separation contractually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the nature of being together in a design build contractual agreement, you start right out of the gate in sharing common goals. You start to gel as a team.
Yeah.
And so now the architect is hearing right out of the gate. So we're hired together.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, the other unique piece of it is in a CM at risk, the architect could be hired 3 months, 6 months, 9 months in advance of us.
Right.
So they're ahead of us. They've already connected with the client.
Yeah.
They've connected with all the constituents at the particular school, if you will.
Yeah.
So they've advanced their relationship with the client. Whereas in a design build, you're in together at once, and you're building that relationship with the client, with the stakeholders, with the constituents on what the goals of the job are. So you really have the opportunity to work as a team collectively right out of the gate from day one.
Yeah.
That to me is a big difference.
Seems like it'd be more efficient.
Very efficient, right?
Yeah.
So now you have if the client is giving you a set budget, you are really working with the designer and the contractor collectively to what's the best way to design and build a job for the $1 million job, the $10 million job, the $100 million job.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier that we have two projects in particular going on right now in Boston. We have a 2 residence halls for large universities. We have one for $120 million, which is a historical gut renovation of a 19th century building. And then with another university, we have a brand new construction, design build, a 265,000 square foot, 1,000 bed dormitory. So very different projects, same program. They're gonna house students, but very different from the standpoint of a heavy renovation to new construction.
Yeah.
But the design build contract has really allowed us to partner with the architect, the engineer, even the owner from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's both are very successful projects.
That's awesome. And we talked about these, and these are sophisticated clients, right? Both of these universities probably have like construction management entities within their university umbrella.
Very sophisticated buyers,
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah, they understand. From they have planners on their staff.
Yeah.
Architectural planners. They have
Yeah.
construction managers. They do hire, in both cases, they hire owner project managers.
Yeah, and
They supplement the staff. But yeah, there's a full complement of resources, but a real high level of expertise.
And so what that tells me is they knew that design build would give them the greatest method to execute a project. It's actually very telling to me. Like, we do much smaller scale projects than you guys, but that's why I love it, because I really feel like we're giving the best methodology, the most control. It's really best for the client, because they're getting that efficiency of that collaboration early. So you're not going to have this going forward, going back, going forth. You're all working together and progressing the project, one step at a time with all facets. The architect today, I hate to say it, but they don't build, so they don't know what things cost, right? So it takes somebody like on the projects you do, somebody who does know builds, somebody who does know what it costs to fill that gap, right?
Right. Dave, I'll just so absolutely. So think about the importance of, every job has its goals. Every job has, we need to achieve by a certain schedule.
Yeah.
But the importance of these two particular jobs, residence halls,
Yeah.
so the dormitories.
Yeah.
So students are signing up to live in this dormitory September 1st, 2018, fall of 18.
Yeah,
semester.
yeah. Then you put it in perspective.
So
there,
the
right?
level of how do we deliver a job that's going to take 22 months to build, or in the case of one of the jobs, it was over 32 months, which was phased occupied.
Wow.
How do you deliver that with a level of certainty that we're going to have occupancy for fall of 2018?
Yeah.
Design build drives that, right?
Yeah.
Design build drives a level of certainty in the schedule, so that you've got your architect and contractor connected.
Yeah.
And they are working towards certainly the common goal of the budget, but the common goal of schedule.
Yeah.
And the schedule, the design schedule, is going to develop and procure in a pace that needs to complement the
end
construction
goal,
schedule,
right?
the end
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
So clearly these clients saw that schedule is of the utmost importance. A design build contract allowed efficiencies in schedule. It drove efficiencies in the
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
So it really helped secure the end game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you talked about, for one of these projects, I think it came from your experience doing similar projects, but also from the collaboration. Because these clients are coming to you with a budget range, right? Like, they know what it's going to cost. They know what it should cost relatively. It's not like they've never done this type of project,
Sure.
or they're just like completely naive and inexperienced, right? So they're really selecting you guys for your ability to execute the project, their confidence in your ability to deliver the best project, right?
Right.
So, as a general contractor primarily, and you got the schedule licked, you know what things cost, but there's also this design facet, which is not what you do.
Right.
So how do you, as the builder, how is that still important to you? Do you guys not care about, because the knock on design build, or part of it, is like, well, from the architect's point of view, it's like they just care about the cost. They just care about, it's not great architecture, because that's not an emphasis for them. So how do you still, to have a great project, you do need all facets, right? You need to be on schedule, but if the building is butt ugly and everybody's complaining about it, it's probably not going to last that long, right?
Yeah. So I think so. Again, the opportunity the client provides us. In these particular cases, the universities in Boston, higher ed facilities, they have campuses, they have a that level of governance that they're building they're continuing to build onto their campus. So they're building that 7,500-year building. So so again here
it needs to be great.
So we're
right?
showing up as the experts, right?
Yeah.
The expert designers, the expert construction managers. So there's a level of yes, there's a range that the owner's going to lay out of here's an expectation of a cost on this job.
Yeah.
So again, but it's up to us to find what's the most creative design. When it comes down to the envelope, right? Is it a brick facade or is it 65% glass?
Yeah.
So we need to really start to study the options.
Yeah.
So again, when you have a team working together,
Yeah.
both the designer and the contractor for the client, saying, hey, here's we can afford $125 a square foot on our facade.
Yeah.
And that 125 to 150 a square foot for the facade is going to give us sufficient funding to support the interiors of the space.
Yeah.
So when you start to slice it by the core shell, the interiors, again, what's the goal, the program of the job to build a sustainable building for the next 75 to 100 years, 1,000+ beds. How do we build that into the program? We can look at a lot of different options for the design and start to give them a cost that shows up, a responsible cost that shows up to meet the goals of the project.
Yeah. Do you show them different design options?
I think, yeah. So certainly coming out of the gate in design build, the owner does want, what are the opportunities of what this building will look like?
Yeah.
So there are. And I think in, whether it's design build or, CM at risk in the GMP scenario, there are multiple options looked at throughout the entire process.
Yeah. Cool. And with design build, because you're working directly with the architect, when they're designing, right? So I'd imagine, okay, great, you have some sort of outline for the project. There's some requirements and guidelines for the project, but then the architect goes out and designs, right? And do they then? And I'm imagining you're kind of overseeing that to whatever degree, or do they come back to you and you coordinate? Like how does that process work before presenting to the client?
So it's a constant iteration, right?
Yeah.
So, what we don't want is the architect to go, for instance, develop a set of drawings, over a 2-month period without any input of what's that,
right.
what their drawing is.
Problematic,
is
right?
it in line with the budget?
Yeah.
That could become very problematic.
Yeah.
So there's a very intuitive, as the architect is thinking about options or thinking about alternative facade materials and selecting different materials, there's a constant feedback loop going on.
Yeah.
If I'm I'm thinking about brick, and brick's going to run me $40 a square foot, or I'm thinking about introducing X amount of glass, and that's going to run 125 a square foot.
Yeah.
So that level of conversation, and just that, you had said it earlier, right? The architects aren't 100% in tune with the cost of construction.
Right.
So having in a design-build relationship, having that constant feedback loop and collaboration, teamwork, constantly builds in. So you have a set of drawings that's developing that's in concert with the budget. Yeah. So again, the client has given us a budget of here's my goal. I want to achieve, a $10 million project, a $100 million project. And as the drawings progress, that we're marching towards that goal for the budget.
Yeah, great. What about projects where you get the drawings at the end of the design phase, like their full construction documents completed? We talked about it being problematic, even for going a 2-month period. Like, how often do you find that those plans need to be redesigned for buildability or budgeting reasons?
Sure. So 100%, right? I mean, I think So,
Like literally, they all do.
you know, Dave, I tell you, it gets to a point where, look, there's a lot of goals on projects, right?
Yeah.
And it's often the case that the budget is a driver of the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, cost is people care what
People
their
care
building
what cost.
costs,
I mean, even if a job has a donor, right? If there's,
yeah.
you know,
It's gifted.
If there's money gifted into the job, there's still a level of fiduciary responsibility that we have to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, the project budget goal.
Right.
So, so there are times where the design will exceed the budget expectations.
Right.
There's a lot of times where if there's not enough influence to have that, I'll say that healthy tension, right? And I think it's a, you know, in a very team-oriented process, you're going to have healthy tension, right? You're going to have, you know, the architect and the contractor in a healthy way talking about what's the best way to build this, what's the best way to, you know, what are the right materials, what are the right means and methods, what are the market conditions, right? We're, you know, as we sit here today, we're in the biggest, largest boom in the city of Boston, you know, you bolt on Cambridge, that we've seen in history, the level of activity, the level of building permits. So that's taxing the subcontractor market, and by that, there creates escalation in cost. So ultimately, you know, you don't want to get to the end of the job, end of the design, and then you bid the job out to the market at that point,
Right.
because you could see a spike in the market with cost escalation.
Does that ever happen?
It's happened a lot recently, certainly in the
No, like does that ever happen where clients are just working with their architects exclusively, and then
the wardrobe malfunction.
and then they or is it like clients who are doing that substantial a project, you know, 20 million, 100 million plus, know better? They just know better, and that you don't, like, they don't do that.
Yeah, so certainly, right, it varies.
Yeah.
Right, it varies. I think, you know, there are certain clients we work with that do prefer the method of developing a set of drawings 100% and getting it into the market to drive a level of, here's our set of drawings, drive competitiveness in the market.
Yeah.
So there's a level of confidence they have with their design team that they can get a complete set of drawings and put it into the market. So,
Got it.
so I think the scenario can play out that, you know, a set of drawings as developed at the end, you know, developed, bidded at the end of the job. Inherently, Dave, it depends on the program of the space. If it's a low risk build out, maybe that's well suited for complete set of drawings, bid it to the market. If it's a complex, phased, occupied renovation,
Right.
and it's got a, you know, you're bolting on an addition to an existing building, an historical facade,
Yeah.
and there's a level of, you know, you're not really sure what those details are. I think that so that it drives collaboration. That it drives.
It's a more difficult project, right? It's a more
difficult. Yeah,
complex.
The risk are higher.
Yeah.
So you want to, again, eliminate risk, whether you're the architect, the client, or the contractor.
Yeah.
How do you mitigate risk early in the process?
Yeah. And then how about, have you seen a rate of change orders? Like, do you find that, you know, when you're part of the, you know, design build, and you're collaborating the whole process, you know, you have like your impact is in those drawings, right? You're part of that design process, versus when you're just given a set of drawings, you have no input, and it's like, just execute these drawings. Is there a difference in the rate of change orders you find between those two processes?
There is. I mean, you know, clearly there's in a design build agreement, there's a lot more cost control, a lot more change order mitigation in a design build arrangement. In a job that's being, you know, fully designed without the level of input the percent of change orders is going to increase.
Yeah.
At the end of that
Yeah.
project. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't tell clients this, but I just thought of it. It's like our change orders kind of happen in design.
Yeah.
Which is when you want them to happen, right?
Right.
Like, because then the client, it's still on paper. You can say yes or no, or
Sure.
make a decision. It's like, as opposed to construction where the client is left in between. When you have a separate general contractor, separate builder, and separate architect, and there is a change, and the architect saying, well, that should be a standard expectation, and it's like, no, it's not in the drawing.
Right.
It's a change. The client's left to mediate that almost, and is left as the judge and the jury, and is in between it. One of the things I love about design build is just the accountability we have. There is nobody else to point the finger to, right? It's like, you designed it. If the drawing was wrong, there's no like, oh well, this guy over here.
Well, that's a really good point, right? So in that lump sum bid environment, there is there's less accountability. There's a lot more finger pointing. So again, I think depending on the level of, if there's a level of confidence that you can get a set of drawings developed flawlessly, 100%, maybe that scenario works. But in a case where there's going to be a lot of challenges, unforeseen conditions, there's a higher level of collaboration and design build that will ultimately bring more cost control, bring more schedule predictability, and ultimately a higher level of certainty of outcome overall.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned to me just certainty of outcome, right? That's kind of Shawmut's, one of your huge values, right?
Yeah. So look, I think if whether this is Shawmut building this, your firm, Dave, I think it's any particular job you can go into a space and say, who built this? Was it New England Design and Construction? Was it Shawmut Design and Construction? You may not be able to tell, but if you ask the client who built that job, and the level of the client's experience throughout the entire process of working with that firm, and again, so driving that level of certainty of outcome with communication. How did we communicate with one another? How did we communicate with the subcontractors, the client, the stakeholders? So that experience that the client has to drive a level of certainty of outcome around schedule, budget, quality, what's important to them, is a big part of how you can deliver a job. In a design build contract, it allows you to deliver a higher level of certainty of outcome.
Yeah.
Because there's so much collaboration that's born right out of the start of the relationship.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think Shawmut Design and Construction was aptly named, even if it wasn't intentional.
That's right.
Two largest jobs right now in New England, and probably the country. New England's the largest office, right?
It
for
is.
Shawmut?
Yeah, the Boston headquarters.
Our
yes.
design build.
Yeah.
You guys are headed in that direction. I mean, the whole world is headed in that direction. In the next 5 to 10 years,
Certainly the trend is picking
design
up.
build is going to be, because it just makes too much sense.
Right.
It's innately, just to have one source of accountability, one entity who a client can entrust, whether they're super. The thing that was really interesting to me hearing about that was, with I'm in somebody's home. A project goes bad, there's a lot of risk there, right?
Sure.
So clients want to choose design build makes a ton of sense to our clients because there's less risk.
Right.
But then you have this sophisticated, Boston University, the most sophisticated of sophisticated clients.
Sure.
It's like the homeowners don't know. This is their first. They don't know how to build. They're
Right.
not used to it. But
First kitchen renovation.
right?
First
This type
bath
of
renovation,
client is
yeah.
going after design build.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very telling.
It speaks highly to the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
I will tell you. So to that point, this is BU's first design build,
Okay.
and it's gone very successful, and they've embraced the process. They've embraced the design build process, and
Awesome.
as we continue to talk with BU, they talk about how they can bring this to several other projects.
Oh, that's cool. Just I don't think BU has an architectural department, do they? Like do they teach
Oh, as far as a
degree?
undergraduate.
I don't think they do, but.
It's a good question. We should know that.
Yeah. But
we should know our
But like the universities are going to start, like universities that are teach architecture. It's taught in a certain way.
Yeah.
That I also think is going to change in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be more of a complete education, like the Wentworth, where you went.
Right.
It's like that facet. They need to collaborate there. They need to combine.
bring that
and
in,
Wentworth does. Wentworth has both.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about that, but want to
Excellent.
thank you.
All right,
It was
Dave.
a great interview.
Always a pleasure, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And we're here at Post 390. It's an awesome restaurant in Boston. Check it out. Many thanks to Kevin Sullivan from Shawmut, and we'll see you on the next Design Build show.
All right, thank you.